Hi, everybody. Welcome to the PSM Reading Book Club. I am your host, Paige, and today we will be going through the first 12 chapters of If It Makes You Happy by Julie Olivia. This is going to be our first impressions of this book, so go ahead and get your beverage of choice. Today mine is water, and let's get into it. So first I want to read the synopsis of this book as it reads on Amazon. A love letter both autumn months and the late 90s. Grab a cozy blanket, light your favorite fall candle, and revisit the autumn of 1997 where there are small town harvest festivals, crunchy leaves, Halloween celebrations, and Thanksgiving pies. This isn't on Amazon, but it's Christmas drama also. Top tier. My new next door neighbor seems to have everything figured out. Small town golden boy? Check. Single dad extraordinaire? Check. Hot baker forearms? I didn't notice them. I swear she did. I, on the other hand, don't at all have anything figured out. Trust me, I didn't even think taking over my mom's dream bed and breakfast in Cooper Run, Vermont was gonna be easy. It should be a good place to heal after my divorce, as pointed out by none other than Cliff. Cliff is inescapable. He knows exactly what people need always. His charm, the way he wears flannels, and even his pastries make not wanting friends with Cliff and his daughters pretty hard. Friends, I can make friends. That's safe. Except I'm leaving in 3 months to pass the in off to my little sister and get a promotion in Seattle I've been working towards. So ask me why I'm thinking about kissing my hot neighbor. If It Makes You Happy is a single dad, friends to lovers, small town romance in the autumn of 1997. This is a complete standalone romance with a happily ever after. We love those here. Tropes are single dad baker, friends to lovers, opposites attract, divorcees, finding love again, autumn 1997, cozy small town, slow burn. Now, from the very beginning, and I'm talking the very beginning, I was hooked by the first line, like the first sentence. And in the first few pages, I hated her ex-husband, Alan, with a fiery passion. Like, I'm talking all caps, hated Alan. And that was for good reason. My notes for this guy say the guy is a tool, and I'm not sorry for using 90s slang. It's based in the fall of 1997, after all. This guy was a giant tool. And it was the giant tool in your dad's toolbox that he got from working on some sort of diesel engine once, and he never got rid of, and he's never going to use it again because he doesn't have a, V12 anymore, right? Like, that's the wrench that Alan is. And he just is horrible. And he treats the dog that worships the ground he walks on, like total garbage. Within the first few pages, we find out that this man is going off to Europe or somewhere to be a doctor there, right? And in this divorce, it's either Michelle take the dog, Rocket, who I come to love and is one of my very favorite characters in this book because he's a full character with a full personality. Love Rocket. It's either up to Michelle to take Rocket or he takes the dog to the Humane Society. A dog is a lifelong responsibility. And he just shoos him away. And the last bit for Alan, actually, no, that's not the last bit for Alan, but I do just want to say this. My Kindle notes were littered with profanity for this man. He cheated on her with someone that was her age when they got together, makes them tell her family about their divorce at her mother's funeral. and then proceeds to act like he never cared about her family at all, which, fair, he probably didn't, considering he made her tell them at the funeral. Um, he could have just left because based off of what I've seen about Michelle so far, while she does seem like she would avoid confrontation, seem she would have told them, like, oh, why is Alan not here? I'll tell you later. So he could have just left, but then this would have been a totally different book, right? I don't know a single person who would treat someone who they once actually cared about, and I know a few divorced people who they once actually cared about in this manner. So that just says that he never actually cared about her at all. And then you have Michelle finding out about the new girl from the new girl because the new girl finds out that he's married, but yet she doesn't tell him to go off somewhere. Like, she doesn't break up with him. She's the new girlfriend. That she's fine with being the new girlfriend, but she wants his wife to know he has a girlfriend. Like, what? And then one last thing on complaining about Alan is that I am so glad within the first, just, I believe it was the first chapter, she slapped him in front of everybody because he deserved it. He really deserved that one. 100% completely. So I'm done complaining about him. And if you think that we're done with 90s slang for this book in general, we're not. I'm going to be thriving on this for the next 4 episodes of this book. Technically 3, because this is number 1. Alright, so I'm done complaining about Alan. We're going to get to Cliff and Michelle a little bit. So Cliff and Michelle's first look was wonderful. And it was at the funeral. And it was just this weird mix of grieving, but intrigue at the same time. And I personally just loved it. Also, if you're a visual viewer, I got these pillows at Target for $5. Aren't they cute? And they match this theme so well of him being a baker, but I need to get a little bit more comfy for this. So, water break. You could tell that they were drawn to each other from the very beginning. And then once they separate and you just see Michelle going off to do the Vermont thing, there's this scene in the taxi that I also absolutely love that I'm actually going to read you part of the line. But essentially, she's in this taxi from the airport to Cooper Run, and it's a very long drive, and she just tosses this dude some cash and is like, take it. And her and Rocket are in there, and she has a map because she's very type A. And the cab driver says this. What are you gonna do all the way out here? Lewis asks. I'm running a bed and breakfast. A sentence that I never thought I would utter 30 days ago. It, reading that line, it really felt like I was looking into a 90s rom-com. And 90s rom-coms are one of my favorite genres of rom-coms. I love them all the way 100%. It just felt plucked right out. Like I could see it in my head like it was a screen. Edited the way that they were edited, it was just wonderful. When the author said in all of her posts on social media that this was like a love letter to the 90s. It really was a love letter to the 90s. So then after we see her in the cab, she struggles really hard. She's struggling with her mother's death. She's struggling why she can't figure out that she's being nice to people, but they aren't perceiving her as nice. And she's struggling in general with the B&B. She tries to cook these biscuits that are basically rocks. They're horrible. No one wants them. No one wants to eat them. No one's leaving notes in the guest book. No one's talking to her. And she thinks it's okay nobody's talking to her. Because again, she's very type A. She's like, oh, you need directions to the market. Take two lefts and there you are. That's it. People need more than that. I would not be a good bread and breakfast owner. I would be Michelle. I would say, oh, the market, two lefts. There you go. Have a good day. And that would be it. And so I definitely related to her a lot. And then she starts to struggle with her divorce, being alone, her relationship with her mother, because she finds a letter that she left to Sarah in the big book of binder of the bed and breakfast. Like her mother knew that her time left was short and dwindling. And so we see Dear Sarah throughout the book, and it's just something that really starts to nag at her. But then she also starts struggling with her attraction to Cliff a little bit because he's the next door neighbor. He immediately invites her to dinner. And she's just like, this is nice. It was nice being around people. It was nice having noise. And then she has to go back to the quiet bed and breakfast and be alone with Rocket, who doesn't listen to her, which I thought was hilarious because she has these little mental conversations with him. And I loved it so much. And when I was reading this and going through my notes, one of the notes that I put during this little part was this book is for the eldest daughters because Michelle just keeps saying, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? I do it because it's gotta be done. And that is something that I feel like all eldest daughters or all siblings that have to take over for their other siblings feel is you do it regardless of what you're feeling and you do it because it's your family. And so this book really, I feel like, is going to relate to the eldest daughters. Now, on Cliff's side of things, he seems like he has this seemingly perfect family, but his backstory, you can tell, is a little tragic. His ex sucks, if not more than Alan. She might suck as much as Alan. And even though I finished this book now, I still don't know whether or not she sucks as much as Alan. Currently, at this point in my reading, though, I felt like she did suck as much as Alan. But Cliff is great, and everyone loves him, but he was hurt so much. His whole relationship and marriage with his ex gave me, if we didn't have this kid, we would have never had a real relationship. She very much seemed like the only reason she was with him was because she thought he was funny at the time and that he would be fun to hang out with. But he was infatuated with her. He loved her, and she just couldn't stand him. And it was supposed to be like a fun fling, and then she got pregnant, and they got married and had the baby. He is just such a fun-loving character that if you read Cliff, you will immediately think of someone in your own life. of just the golden retriever. That's exactly what he is. He is a golden retriever boyfriend. And regardless of how much self-loathing he has towards his ex-wife disliking the fact that he was a golden retriever, he doesn't know how to be anybody else, and so he just chooses to be him. And he really holds on to that and thinks that no one actually likes him for who he is, even though that is the direct opposite of the truth. Um, I do love Cliff's small obsession with trying to figure out what Michelle's favorite pastry is, which they call his weird baker thing. And I think it's sweet that he respects that she doesn't want to be called by a nickname. Because for Michelle, all of her family calls her Shell, Shells, Shelly, Shellfish. And she shows up and he's like, trying to call her by the nickname that he knows her by because her family's talked about her. And she's just like, just Michelle. And he's like, okay, just Michelle. And as they grow closer, so does the affection and attraction for each other. Um, and clearly by the end of chapter 12, when they celebrate her being able to talk to people like guests and not just people who need information, you can really see the friendship bond truly form. And I really, really could not wait to get back to reading this book at the end of chapter 12. It took everything I had to stop and write my notes for this podcast, for the show notes, and for the blog post later. I absolutely loved this book from the start, and I cannot wait to continue to share this book with you and have our discussions in the comments if you're on YouTube or in the Facebook group if you choose to join it, which I highly suggest you do. And I just really can't wait to share it with everybody. So, happy reading. Cheers. P.S. It is time for some lovable side characters and honorable mentions from chapters 1 through 12. I love, love, love Cliff's sister. She's a hot mess, and when he was getting on to her about quitting smoking, she says, "Shut up, Clifford, I'll quit tomorrow." And that was on page 22, and I felt that in my soul. I just love Carol. I love her energy. I love everything who she is, everything about her, who she is as a person. Carol is wonderful. And then I would also like to petition for Lars, Cliff's best friend, and Carol to get together. Because Lars doesn't date local women, he only dates women who are going to leave. I want Carol and Lars to get together. I want them to get together so bad. Or I want Lars to fall in love with an out-of-towner that's like selling her aunt's estate or something. And please check the show notes for my actual full note on this because it's a lovely book idea and I need recommendations for said book. So please send me some recommendations for that. And what else? There was another recommendation that I wanted, but I can't seem to find it. So check out the show notes where all of the books that I want to read that I don't know whether or not they exist are in there. Please share them with me. So TTYL, I told you I wasn't done with the 90s slang. Talk to you guys later. Bye.